All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Today, we have a ton to go over, and we're going to talk about the last 24 hours craziness. Of course, on the internet, a lot of folks put some pretty scary stuff out there. We'll talk about what was real, what was debunked, and what was sort of debunked, but now people think that there's even like a double debunk going on. But the fact is there is a lot going on down by Miami. So we will cover that. Russia threatens to change its nuclear doctrine over the U.S. escalation. Now, essentially, when you go through this in the comments that are said, it's sort of what everybody in this community was talking about as far as this doctrine that they actually have for using nuclear weapons against anyone. We have talked about this for months now. Those kind of the bar that they said, hey, if you hit our early warning systems, that's a grounds for us to use a nuke against you. If you hit out so many airfields, if you take out so many large naval ships, and by you, any country that is fighting it, they have set actual specifics of how they would be able to say, hey, legally, we can nuke you right now because you did exactly what we told you we would do. Now they're even talking about changing this, right? And again, a lot of folks have been talking about nuclear weapons over the last month, and it is a scary subject. Most preppers look at it and say, hey, in this case, most of us think that it would be a tactical nuke, or if it would be a single nuke to kind of send a message. Not many people believe in a full mutually assured destruction because most people believe that neither side is that stupid. They would knock out each other's early radars, or they would do something so it wouldn't be just an all-out, end of the world. Moscow is threatening to make changes to its nuclear doctrine in response to what the Kremlin views as escalatory actions by the U.S. and NATO. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov dropped the warning on Tuesday in comments to reporters, saying that mounting challenges created by the U.S. and its allies, without a doubt, put before us in all of the magnitude of the question of how the basic documents in the field of nuclear deterrence can be brought more into line with current needs. Essentially, hey, we might need to change this up because things are changing rapidly. He said that Russian authorities would not give advance notice of what exact changes would be made to the doctrine, which lays out the conditions under which the Russian president would consider using a nuclear weapon. Ryabkov's comments come less than a week after Vladimir Putin floated the idea of making changes to the nuclear doctrine at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, calling it a living tool subject to change, and warning that we are carefully watching what is happening in the world around us and do not exclude making some changes to this doctrine. That's why a lot of folks think that if this was any kind of exchange, that it would be a tactical nuke exchange. It would be a smaller event, which, should put most people at ease but at the same time, you wouldn't want to be the place that got hit. At that time, Putin said that there was no basis for Moscow to use nuclear weapons against Ukraine, but that Russia wouldn't hesitate to use them if the very existence of the country was threatened. Well, what situation would that be? We'll talk about it here in just a second. We'll be right back. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Oh,
All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We're going to, of course, continue on and get right back into the news, but I do want to remind you, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you have any questions about any of the sources for today's show, including any kind of tweets, any kind of picture, document, article, source, is all on our website. You can go to marfooglenews.com, and then you, of course, can find a thumbnail of today, and it will show you a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today. We're going to talk about the flash flood. We're going to talk about the Russian warships. We're going to talk about the NATO chief and what he is actually saying right now. Of course, we're going to cover what is going on in Mexico, some very, very crazy rumors going on below us. And then, of course, the Navy. Did they just fly by Miami? We'll talk about that. I may have some corrections, but again, now I'm starting to wonder if something funky is going on down in Miami. But again, we'll talk about all of that. I do want to read this last statement here because I do believe it is important as far as this article goes. This was a quote. It says, "If it comes to it, God forbid, Europeans must think about whether the Americans will get involved in a nuclear exchange at the strategic weapons level if those with whom we exchange strikes do not exist. I really doubt it." Now, I'm going to bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Now, Dex, that last part. So I don't know if I was reading it wrong, but I'm trying to get a second opinion on this. It says on the level, if those with whom we exchange strikes do not exist. How are you taking that? Because I think I'm taking it wrong.
My first read on that was they do not exist, meaning they don't have nuclear weapons, so they don't have the ability to strike back. Will the U.S. strike for them? And I think he's saying, I doubt they will. But I guess the other way you could look at it is they don't exist. In other words, did he just wipe them off the map? But I don't think that is the meaning if he's talking about tacticals.
Okay, that's kind of how I read it, and then thought about the secondary part of that. So, saying that if they strike, since Ukraine does not have nuclear weapons, would the U.S. then step in their place? Why would they even need to use nuclear weapons unless they're just, I mean, if they went savage style and just said, we're going to, basically, why would they even use it in Ukraine, especially with the farmland? That's what I think too. A lot of the resources that are there, I'm sure that there's hidden resources that we're not being told about. Obviously, Lindsey Graham just said the other day, there's 10 to 12 trillion dollars in resources in Ukraine. And yeah, of course, it would be great to have them as a financial partner. It would be very beneficial. And it's like, that makes it super clear. And I bet that 10 to 12 trillion is like, a low estimate. There's probably, lithium or some crazy thing underneath all of that wonderful farmland that we don't know about. Or there's oil. Every conflict and major conflict, it's like, it's about this and it's about pride or it's about a principle. When it always comes down to it, it's almost always one side wants like a resource or the other side is trying to protect a resource. It's almost always about resources. I've done this on the show where you go into Ukraine on the map and you can zoom in almost everywhere. I mean, I don't think there's a place you can zoom in where it is not a piece of farm. They have some of the best soil in the world. I think it's called black soil, but it's some of the best and most farmable soil in the world out of anywhere, right? So is it all about the farmland? Because in the future, we're going to have a problem with food and all of these things. Are they thinking ahead? I don't know. But one thing I do think about is how they worded that. And if they nuke them, they don't have nukes. Would we step in? Most people believe that the current prez would definitely not. They would probably be like, let's go along the lines of sanctions, right? Well, can you respond to a nuke with sanctions? I don't think most people would agree with that. But who knows? What is going to happen in the next few months before all that happens? Now, let's see here. NATO chief says the alliance is adapting its nuclear arsenal to security threats. Dex, what do they mean by that?
Well, here we go. Let's just continue the nuclear rhetoric. So basically coming out of NATO there, Jens Stoltenberg was talking on Wednesday and highlighted the alliance's efforts to adopt its capabilities to current security threats, which is basically meaning the rhetoric and the nuclear drills that are coming from Russia. He was talking to reporters, and he said that, that basically it's what he called the nuclear weapons NATO's ultimate security guarantee. That's his quote, ultimate security guarantee. And he says it means to preserve peace. But look, this is what he was trying to get at, but he was just sort of mincing around the words a little bit. Is like, we've got nukes and we're willing to use them. And we've moved nukes around. So he says, or he didn't say this, but it's coming from the author as well. It's well known that the U.S. has deployed nuclear weapons to several locations in Europe. NATO rarely talks about these publicly, which they don't. It's rare that he would talk about them, which is why he's sort of dancing around it. But given the heightened situation, that's what's so interesting, is that they're bringing it up. So he says, back to the quote, they called it the ongoing adaptation of NATO nuclear arsenal. Stoltenberg said that the Netherlands had, and this is part of what he was talking about publicly, that they had declared that the first F-35s were ready to carry nuclear arms. So again, hinting to the fact that NATO is potentially going to be moving around nukes, or potentially deploying and readying nukes, but not necessarily saying that. Does that make sense? He's being very coy in his words here, but he described increasing Russian activities around its nuclear capabilities, and he said, what we have seen over the last year and months is dangerous nuclear rhetoric from the Russian side. We also see some more nuclear exercises on the Russian side, he said. So all of this conversation that he was having intentionally with reporters was all about the nukes, and dancing around the fact that they're probably moving nukes around for NATO. But obviously, this is in response, or at least meant to be put out against all of the rhetoric and the tactics that are coming right now from Russia around the nukes.
So he's being vague on purpose. And one thing to think about is, like, what is being said behind closed doors? Like, what are they talking about behind closed doors that all of this is being talked about in the public? Just say hypothetically, it's not, because everybody wonders how much of this is all one big show and that they're all high-fiving behind closed doors. Well, they most likely are. But also, it very well could be that the U.S. in NATO, right? The U.S. in itself right now, that there are good people, the system's set up to be good, but most of these good people, or these people in power, are getting paid off, like on a scale that we've never seen before, where there's always been corruption in all of the politics and things. But now, more than ever, somebody's making a major move to pull and restructure the power of the earth. There's always been families that had a lot of pull, but I think that like a huge power move is being made right now. So you could say with NATO and all of this, it's like, so hypothetically say none of that is happening. Say it really is just as simple as this, and maybe they're fighting over a resource. Maybe it's just that both countries really do hate each other, and all of this, there's no secret high-fiving and whatever else. You have to wonder what's being said behind the scenes where all of this is happening. You've got troop movements. You've got, of course, jets and Poseidon and nuke sniffers and E-6 Mercuries off of the coast of Miami. Whether anybody got actual video of that, again, there's trackers and transponders on those planes, so people are talking about that. Now you see this, and it's like it's going nuts. What is actually happening behind the scenes? We will never know. We're civilians. But all of the military families in our Fugel fam, a lot of them have been saying for the last month and a half, the last 6 weeks have been nuts. I have seen more people say that they're saying, temporary goodbyes to their family, sending them off, that they're getting deployed. And this is a well-known thing. There's huge deployments happening right now. There's also these giant moves in recruitment. There's, of course, possible laws and bills being put in place because they understand that if a major war happens between the world, that almost every country is not hitting the recruitment numbers. That's because the entire world, doesn't matter what language you speak, they all have the internet, and it's all being translated. All of the ganda about, anti-everything it's universal across the planet. Nobody wants to fight for these for the bankers, right? Well, now we're heading into an actual hot war, and that's my opinion again. But we don't know why. There's the public reasons, but a lot of us doubt what is really happening here. There's a lot of shadiness. There's a lot of pawns in the game. Speaking of which, by the way, has anybody broke down the shape of this thing? Like, doesn't that look like SS but twice or something? Why did they shape the frickin' building like that? Does anybody know? Is that a symbol? Did they do that on purpose? I guess I've shown this on screen so many times, but I never thought about it. That's just weird. If you look at it that way, it looks like almost like the you know what symbol. Anyways, hidden in plain sight. And let's go over to the chat real quick and say hello. Hey, nice to see you guys. Let's do a quick roll call. We got Louis Trampoche. We've got Choo Choo Fixer. We've got Tactawolf, Saul DePaul. Remember, God is in control. He's lining up the nations to prepare for Armageddon. Well, I hope it's not Armageddon, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody came back down now. Man in the Castle, Saul Paul. I don't know if you're talking about Man in the High Castle, but yeah. What a trip. Ladybug here. If you haven't seen that show, go watch it. Kimbria, Bobby Sue, Sean C., Charles May, Sigrid. We've got Ohio in the house. Willard, Ohio. Sandpoint, Idaho. Nice to see you, James McGowan. We've got C. What's happening? We've got Marfoogle Bar and Brewing from Washington. Nice to see you. Peppermint Jim. We've got some locals and some old school Fool fam in the house. Pina Perspective. Thank you. Again, Genius by Birth. Thank you, Jordan. Salute to Adam. Hey, nice to see you. Beans and Frank. You know who I was just missing the other day is Heartbroken Survivor. I hope you're doing well. If you are watching the replay, I hope you stop by and say hi and at least let us know you're okay. And then Connor B. Griffin. We've got Sheldon Bosch, Indian Sue, Three Horses Running, and Tracy Heggie. Another person that stopped by, Lisa Hall, old school mod. She's working a whole lot, but she stopped by the other night, and that was super awesome. All right, and then say hi to your mods, and of course thank them. They do an awesome job. Obviously, we don't have a really crappy chat. We have a lot of positive people that push everybody up. But if you do want to check out your mods, go over and check out marfugglenews.com/friends. You have everybody from, of course, all the way from Bones to Wages and a whole list of friends of other creators that you can check out on the weekends. Say if we're not on, make sure you're checking out one of our friends. All right. And then thank you, Darren, for subscribing. Thank you, Gillian. Thank you. Says countries don't hate each other. People do. Best wishes to all. Well, and I think that's partly because they were trained to, right? Over the last few years, everybody's been forced to hate each other because one thing I wonder is how they changed it. Dex, don't you wonder how they were able to make people more sensitive? So people are so sensitive now. I'm sure when you were in your younger years, you could go to a bar or something and say if somebody did bring up the stuff you're not supposed to, politics and all that, you could still say you picked the other person and they wouldn't tear you apart for that, right?
No, not to your face. They might, snicker behind your back, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm never going to talk to that person. I'm going to shun them, or I'm going to, storm off and never be in their presence again, which it's just, I don't know how we got to this point. I'm sure there's some psychological programming that's been put in place over the last 8 years that has obviously done this to us.
Well, and how did they get at each individual? And people think they're being so individualistic right now, and I can't say it as well as it should be said, but there was a great piece on how we are going into this individual stage, which people think, we're all being individual, but in being individual, there's a complete breakdown that happens. Everybody is being selfish. Everybody's being egotistical. Just social media and everything, but also everybody is trying to be so individualistic that they're ending up more of, the same. It's kind of crazy. It's like you're trying to stick out to fit in. It's weird. And then Russian warships, nuclear submarine, enter Havana harbor under watch of U.S. destroyers. So this is a good time to do some housekeeping because there was a tweet, and at the time that I tweeted it, I did believe it was a real tweet. Now, I still think there is a chance that this could be real. But soon after, Community Notes came in and fixed this. Also, I'm not in Miami, so I was unaware of, at the time, the craziness that was going on with the storm. Now, I would love to ask you, if you are in Miami, was it sunny, or anywhere in Florida that has flash flooding now, was it sunny, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours before that? Because there are people commenting saying that it was really a beautiful morning and that you could go to the beach this morning. And that's why the flash flood that happened in Miami, which I'll show you here in a minute, was so alarming. Now, the argument over here is over this video, and this video is shown a lot over the places. There's no metadata attached from any of the sources I could see, but it shows these people on the beach, and it shows helicopter, it shows this, that. The initial Community Notes said that this was Memorial Day and that it was an air show, and they're all flying extremely low, flying by the beach. Now, they actually do this for regular drills. They do it in ocean shores, and they do it on the Washington coast all the time. If you live on the coastline, you will actually see when they do their drills and patrols, they'll have all sorts of, they'll have warthogs, they'll have jets, they'll have Chinooks and Black Hawk helicopters and Apache helicopters do these really, really low. I mean, it's a cool thing to see. I've seen it and I've filmed it and I've shown you guys that at ocean shores where these helicopters come in like 20 feet above. And a lot of it is practice for like search and rescue and things like that. Dex also mentioned that it's safer that way because if you're down low and you're close to land, that if anything happens, that you're really close to landing. But the problem is right away people were saying, oh, this is Memorial Day, and other people have different videos of it. But then some people said that it was sunny that day. Now it has actually changed. Let me see. Why is now all of a sudden hold on, the Community Notes is now gone. I wonder if somebody proved it. No, okay. So why that's so stupid. It shows it and then it doesn't show it. Okay. It's like it showed it for a second and then it disappears. Dex, can you see, did they remove the Community Notes? Because if somebody proved that this was this morning, that would be great. But essentially the argument is what's alarming about this is it has warthogs, it has a B-2 bomber, it has a nuke sniffer, it has all these. It would totally make sense if this was an air show over Memorial Day weekend. But people constantly post old videos and they post it as new. And if this is fake, then it did get me because the comments initially were saying, yeah, this just happened. But then people said, oh no, this is Memorial Day. But then the Community Notes actually changed. They threw away the Memorial Day thing, and then they said the only reason they thought that this wasn't it is because they said that there's no clouds in the sky, and currently Miami's going through this flash flood thing. Now, as somebody who lives in Seattle, we have beautiful sunny 80-degree days, and then all of a sudden we have days where within 2 hours, you have a bus drive by, you will be soaked because it's flash flood story. Anybody that lives here knows, like, it can go from a beautiful day to a flash flood in, a couple hours. Also in Miami, I don't know how it works, but obviously something could roll in really fast. They're saying tropical breeze or whatever. So if you are here, Ray the Way says this is, and Ray the Way is one of our people. So this is from an air show. See, there's people saying different things. Live in Miami and it's effing storming. This video is not current. Do not trust. So but then the actual notes got changed. So I did want to correct it.
Adam, on my side, I've refreshed it a couple times, and the Community Notes seem to change, bouncing back and forth between the Memorial Day and the rain, as both of them being valid excuses for why it's not real. So
yes, it did bounce.
Telling you what I'm seeing.
It bounced.
It'll go back and forth. So I think they have multiple Community Notes that they're showing on this.
So what I said is this is what we all envisioned, and now it's happening. I usually correct and I don't delete, because then you have it there for, you put it there, so I'm not trying to hide it. I usually leave them there and correct it. But one thing I will say is that is true. So all of these things that are pictured here, besides the B-2 bomber, which there's no proof of a B-2 bomber, all of the other planes are technically there. So if you look at what is being tracked right outside of Miami, it might not be like 50 feet away from the beach, but that is happening. So I hope that this doesn't take away from the fact that this is actually what is going on right now. And it's not Memorial Day. It's Russia's in Cuba and Havana Day. In fact, they arrived and they're deep. By the way, this is Miami. Other people had another theory on this and thought it was very, very weird that this flash flood came so quickly, like the day that they roll into Havana, right? Right above this, I'll show you. This is the other big thing that people were talking about. Let's see here. Let's go back. Is this flash flood. And this flash flood is really, really nuts. So let's go to this. Yeah, so check this out. Oh, no. That's Seattle here. Check this out. Let's see here. There we go. So check this out. This is in Florida today. So where they said that this beautiful sunny day was, this is it. So this is hours ago. I guess it is a lot worse right now in parts of Florida. They say that it is impassable in some places in downtown. As far as what is happening there, it hit them like a bag full of rocks. So that's pretty bad. So at the same time, they're putting out videos saying it's sunny. That's why, again, had to correct it. But then it made me wonder. The only reason it makes me wonder is because of all of the responses. And now people are like doubling down and saying, no, it was this way. And I'm like, I don't know what to think. But I would assume if it looks like this, it probably isn't a nice, beautiful day like that video shows. One thing I hate, though, is how people do that. And what do they expect? Like if they do go viral, they're going to go viral once and then nobody will ever watch them again. Like, I think people just like to get the high of going viral, and that's it. It's like you're not gonna get anything out of that. Like, that's what I don't understand. And it happens all the time. So I apologize for that if that is the case. All right, and then the Havana harbor is full of Russian ships. Dex, so they did come, and now you've got the Cuban Revolutionary Armed Forces along with the Russian forces basically rigging up right in Havana.
Well, yeah. So if they were there today, they wouldn't have. It doesn't make. I don't know if they would have been in Miami this morning or today. If they were in that location, they probably would have been there earlier. So I think that could have been the scene if it was legit yesterday, as they were probably coming down that path into last night. But yeah, they're in the harbor. And of course, they are being monitored by the U.S. destroyers that have been following them probably this entire way. Anytime that we know of their ships being nearby, we're going to be all over it. And these particular ones, given the fact that there's hypersonics on them, they're claimed to be no nukes on them, but that's just words. We don't know if there are or not. So I think it's in our best interest to be on alert and pay attention to what's happening here. It's obvious this is a sign of of strength or force from Putin. It's obvious that he's doing this given the fact that he's in the midst of doing tactical drills right now with Belarus. He's in the midst of pushing hard against UKR, and the fact that the U.S. and NATO allies have been pumping so much finger pointing towards him about escalating and ramping up the conflict, as well as giving permission to reach deep into Russia with the Western weapons. This is part of his, response back. I'm sure they want to have a nice visit in Cuba and go hang out and drive some old classic cars, but ultimately this is a show of strength and a warning, if you want to call it that, to the U.S. Now, we've often talked about the recent changes that were happening with their travel. There being Cuba's allowing or trying to bring in 200,000 people in under the umbrella of tourism from Russia. That could be a sign of another way of bringing people into their country under a disguise, so to speak. Potentially, they could be bringing in military. We wouldn't know if that's what they wanted to do. They could be bumping up their military strength with Russians and just call them tourists on the way in the door. So all of this is happening right now, folks, and it is, some will call it the Cuban crisis 2.0, right?
And you know how I've always talked about a Pearl Harbor type event. If this was lining up like, it technically could go, what if this is the kind of event that you would have, or you would have some sort of event where something goes down in Ukraine, some big mistake, some huge thing, and then Russia responds from Cuba. Now, I hope that they just go back to Russia. I hope that everything goes like butter, and they just go back home. And this is just a drill. But everybody said when they were at the edge of Ukraine that it was just a drill, and that mainstream media was hyping it up that they were doing an invasion. For the first 6-8 months, half of our community didn't even believe they were in there. They did not believe that the invasion actually had started. And then it slowly morphed into, oh, well, they did invade, but it wasn't an invasion. It was more of they were defending themselves. I see both sides of it being, to this day, being fought about. But one thing we do know is Russia and Ukraine are in a full-on war. I mean, it's war. And we are heavily backing Ukraine. NATO is heavily backing Ukraine. And now almost every European country is talking about jumping in. This is World War II and World War I. This is history repeating itself over and over again. And the U.S. would need some sort of Pearl Harbor event, or some event like what was in World War I with Pancho Villa. You would need something like that to get us into it. If the United States, got attacked or something like that, everybody would be up in arms. People would be, their recruitment numbers would have no issues anymore. I promise you that. If something happened on our soil, all of a sudden our recruitment would go from behind to ahead. People would be dropping what they're doing, and they would be going in and itching to join the military. We know this because everything like this. After 2001, the recruitment numbers shot through the roof. Everybody was like, I want to go there and I want to take these guys out myself. People were pissed. That kind of event, and especially if you believe a lot of the stuff is orchestrated, that's the scary part. Is something like this could happen. They don't have a conscience. They don't care even if 1 million people perished. If there was somebody at the top pulling strings like that and wanted that to happen, do you think that they would think twice? I don't. They're in the safety of their billion-dollar mansions and in their $300 million bunkers. They know what's going down. They get a heads up. Like in Leave the World Behind, it says, well, what if there isn't this, top secret, super, super secret group? Maybe there's a lot of super, super rich people, and the best you can hope for is to get a heads up. It's a scary thought to think it's even worse than what they say, that there is no organization, and it's just rich people fighting with other rich people, and we're essentially the ammo. Think about that. That's disturbing. And before we move on, make sure to go check out Energy. If you don't have a backup power supply, this is what we recommend. It is a fully modular, which essentially just like Lego, you can actually add in different bricks, solar generator. So on top of being able to expand it up to 96 batteries, or take it portable with just one and go camping, plug in a TV in the middle of nowhere, or power your tools at a job site, or take it where you don't have an extension cord. Again, you can do anything, including power your home in a disaster. So Again, this is an awesome, awesome unit. It is made by Energy. It's made like appliances used to be made. It is made with steel reinforced frame. It has, of course, heaters built into every batteries. And again, it has the 1,500-pound latch system. This is their tactical. This is Army strong, and they mean that. Again, it was just picked for the STTR Phase 2 contract for the U.S. Army. So these will be on the back of freaking Humvees here soon. So these things are tough. The only downside about this is there is a wait. So be prepared. You got to get your name on it quick. They make them in small batches. They are made incredibly well. I mean, you're talking about, they build them like tanks. So if you want the best, if you want something that's absolutely going to work when you need it, which you do not want to slough on something like an electronic, you can, of course, go get one that's going to come on Monday. But if you've ever gotten electronics or anything nowadays, they fall apart after a year or two. If we're talking about SHTF, you're going to want this thing to last decades. At the very least, you're going to want it to turn on every single time. And that's why we recommend Energy. We know that this isn't a company that's, some sort of front for straight up, a country that's literally trying to take the top spot away from us. So go to marfooglenews.com/energy. Again, this is an awesome, awesome company, awesome, awesome machine. It's very easy to use. It's silent, so nobody's going to hear it. And it doesn't have any nasty fumes. You can run it inside, and you can get unlimited power from the sun or charge it from your house. marfooglenews.com/energy, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. There's a million uses for it. You can figure out what you're going to use yours for. All right, and then it helps you, it helps us, it gives you a huge discount, and it's helping independent media. And independent media all over, not just us, all of our peers right now, everybody should be helping out just by sharing. Every independent person that you watch, you should be trying to share and subscribe, because right now, in the next 6 months, we're going to be up against one heck of a hill. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you, Foogle fam, for sticking by us through thick and thin. And then JB is to sign a security agreement with Ukraine as Putin cozies up with North Korea. We stand with them. Dex, let's go over North Korea and Putin getting cozy.
Yeah, we already know that one. Let's talk about the new security agreement that Biden is going to sign. He is signing this agreement on Thursday at the G7 meeting with Zelensky, basically creating a 10-year or more commitment of working with them to support their military, training their military, boosting weapons production, cooperation, and providing other assistance and increased intelligence sharing, according to the U.S. officials. That's what they're saying. Our goal here is straightforward, the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told reporters. He says, we want to demonstrate that the U.S. supports the people of UKR and that we stand with them and will continue to address their security needs, not just now, but in the future. So we're signing on the dotted line now to go into a long-term agreement. Now, none of this has funding, so there's always that issue, like where do you get the funds to pay for all these different things? But we're certainly entering into a level of commitment or agreement in which we're going to, make sure that we're invested for the long term with UKR. So that's happening Thursday. That will be signed. They also reiterated, though, that there was nothing in the deal that would involve sending American forces into UKR. That's what they want to clarify, which is much different than what you hear from the Baltic states and France, who has been, Macron's been very vocal about saying, oh, wow, we can send trainers in, we could send our own military if we need to. So that's been a hot topic with some of the countries in Europe and a very contested topic with other NATO countries. And the U.S. is saying, hey, we're not doing it. At least that's what they're claiming as part of this agreement that they're signing. Of course, Putin and Kim have been, investing heavily, and that continues to happen. And we don't see that changing anytime soon.
I honestly think it's a lot simpler than most people want to put it. I think it's very obvious what is happening with all of the adversarial countries. They're all working together. They have a goal to take the United States out. There are other countries that are understanding that something is about to go down with the U.S., which we'll talk about here in a second. We're going to show you. Some people think it's because there's about to be mass exiting of people that just got brought in over the last 4 years. But some think it's because this new prez in Mexico, it thinks that something's what people are saying is that she is essentially giving them the heads up that they're going to actually pay to build a container for our country because they're afraid that people are about to go south and try to escape America. Crazy theory here. But as far as, I think it looks pretty simple what's happening here. Another thing that just happened with the USA and all of these adversaries, after 50 years, 1974 agreement with Saudi Arabia. At the same time we're signing agreements with this, 50-year agreement, Saudi Arabia is not going to renew their agreement with the United States. Like, what the heck is going on here? Everything is topsy-turvy. Everything is on its head. And they're even doing it right out in everybody's faces. They're coming up with a currency plan. They're coming up with something that will try to take down the dollar. Or will it just nicely fit right into place once the dollar collapses? If you think that this is, anything close to fear-mongering, gosh, listen to the financial channels right now. The financial channels are scary, and especially those that are talking about the financial doomsday of the U.S. If you look at gold, you look at Bitcoin, you look at everything else, it shows there's some serious lack of confidence in the U.S. dollar. The Treasury bonds, Dex, did you hear about this? I don't think we covered this, but the U.S. did an auction for the bonds, and essentially they said, well, it didn't go as well as we thought. Others looked at the actual numbers. They said it was not abysmal. It was horrifying. Essentially, those bonds are, you buy them now, you're basically the government's loaning money from the buyer, right? Hey, we'll give you 5% back in 50 years. Well, people believe that the U.S. dollar is in such bad shape, nobody wants to buy those bonds even at a 5% interest because they believe in 10, 15, 20 years that interest won't equal what the inflation is. So we're in a tough spot right now. And obviously everybody's feeling the heat all across the country. Now even people like frickin' Dr. Phil are talking about, what do you call it? Bidenomics and all that. It's like when you get it to that point, it's bad. Dex, let's go over the next one. Sorry, I've got a visitor here, and somebody got into the room. Oh, okay. That's nugget for you. Okay.
All right, well, up next, we're going to be talking specifically about two U.S. Navy MQ-4C Tritons that are now operating in Okinawa. This has come out according to USNI News, and this is obviously operating near and against, I would say,
sorry about
China
that,
and the needs of China. So, but the second of two U.S. Navy MQ-4C Triton unmanned aerial vehicles temporarily deployed to Okinawa arrived on Sunday. So they are now there. This is coming out of Okinawa Times. With two UAVs expected to soon commence intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions. I guarantee you we know where they're going. They're heading down into the East China Sea. They're heading over to probably monitor what's happening around Taiwan and with China. So again, Okinawa, in Japan, we've got new drones heading in there, the Triton drones, which, by the way, Adam, I know we've talked about this in the past, the other drones that were all prop-based. This is one that's actually jet-based, single jet engine on it. This may be one of the ones you have seen in the past. But it's it does not do Mach. It's like half a Mach. So it's not supersonic like the Chinese drone that is jet-based that came out that was supersonic.
And we have Marcos tells soldiers to prepare for more worrisome threat. heard a lot of clips of Marcos lately. Tells soldiers to prepare for a more worrisome threat. Ferdinand Marcos Jr. told his nation's Northern Army unit to be ready for any eventuality amid tensions between China and Taiwan, and says, well, warning of more worrisome threat to his country. The Philippines is, of course, within China's areas of interest due to the proximity of its northern portion of Taiwan. Marcos told soldiers on Monday, according to a statement released by Communications Office, he spoke at Camp Melchor de la Cruz in the province of Isabela, one of the 4 new sites that the U.S. military can access under a defense deal that was expanded last year. Again, the Philippines has been pretty close as far as the whole deal with Philippines and the Coast Guard and all of this working together with the U.S. They also inked deals as far as they were going to allow more and more troops to move in right on China's doorstep as well. The Southeast Asian nation should prepare for, quote, a more pronounced external threat. The president was also quoted as saying in the statement, without specifying. Marcos also repeated his pledge not to yield any Philippine territory. So why would he even say that, right? That he won't yield or give up any of his Philippine territory. Is he simply talking about the islands, or is he talking about something else as well? As far as the islands go, obviously China is not giving up, and they're building the Spratly Islands. They're telling the world, they've actually put out maps saying this is all ours. And that includes land and of course, waters that should be owned by at least 4 other countries. The Philippines is near 2 potential flashpoints in the region, Taiwan and the South China Sea. Manila and Beijing have had these tense encounters in the disputed waters, of course, most recently involving a supposed attempt by China to seize supplies and blocking a medical evacuation from Philippine military outposts there, which the military outpost is, of course, that boat that's just basically washed up ashore, and they have military living there. But that is their claim because they're afraid that China is going to come in and swoop it all up. China is literally making islands there, and they've already built in bases and airfields and everything else. I kind of see that China will end up taking all of that international water, because if you build land and if you populate it for long enough, like we said before, we actually asked about this, like, would that constitute them actually getting that as their kind of easier economic zone? And it looks like if they do it for a certain amount of time, that's exactly what's going to happen. Imagine China or controlling huge chunks of the oceans. They could do that almost anywhere. They could literally build islands out of nowhere, bring their huge navy, and just sit there for long enough and say, this is ours now. That's a crazy thought, but that's where we're at right now. So why is Marcos saying it? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And K. Parker Fraser says, has been a member for 13 months, says, this is the best news channel out there. Hey, thank you. I wouldn't say we're the best, but I would say we try. So thank you, K. Parker Fraser. I really, really, really appreciate that. And then Stephen McMahon says, off to work, keep a heads on the swivel, but love y'all. Hey, awesome. Thank you, Stephen McMahon, and thank you for the support. Thank you over on D-Live, everybody that popped in over on Rumble. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And everybody that's watching live on X. Thank you guys. I love you. All right. And then let's talk about Hezbollah, Dex.
Yeah. So the headline is, the Hez raining rockets down on is in response. Let me rewind just a hair so you guys understand what's going on with the response. So Israel came out today and confirmed that it had eliminated Talib Sami Abdullah in a strike up there in one of the Hez command centers in southern Lebanon. So the statement called him one of their most senior commanders in the southern Lebanon area, and said that he had planned, advanced, and carried out large numbers of attacks and other types of attacks, those T attacks, against Israeli civilians. So that is the setup of this particular instance. Now, it's not to say this whole thing hasn't been going on, because it has. They've been warring left and right. Every day there's been, shots going across the lines there since October. But of course, now the Lebanese militant group has fired successive barrages of rockets at northern Israel on Wednesday after they took out that commander. So that's the response, the tit for tat. So they have traded, obviously, border fire for a long time, but the exchanges have intensified in recent weeks. But this time, it had launched dozens of Katyusha rockets at 3 bases and barracks in northern Israel. The militant group said it also struck a military factory with guided missiles in response to that attack again that came from their quote unquote enemy. So we told you this is going to continue to ramp up. What's happening in the north in that area as the strip sort of settles, or I don't want to say it's settled, but it's sort of reached the lull now. You're going to see everything else start to, hound in on is from the other sides. Both, I even think Yemen might even get more involved, aside from just what they're doing with the ships in the Red Sea. But definitely Lebanon and what's happening in the north there with those groups. This is escalating. It's going to continue to escalate. I predict we'll see a lot more of this in the coming days and weeks.
By the way, usually we've had a pretty big, audience and a lot of folks in the chat, and there's usually a lot of stories where people are going to pick one side or the other, and there is no in between. There's no, I see both sides. One thing that I think that has been put into all of us lately that is intentional is the fact that somebody could say something that may be the opposite of our thoughts. One thing I hope that you guys try to train yourself to do is, so say if you see a view and it's the exact opposite of your view, complete opposite, don't let that make you angry. Don't let that mess with your emotions. Just have it be this person believes that. There's 10 billion other things that you can find that person as a human being other than that issue that you can get along on. If we aren't allowed to think outside of what everybody else thinks, or if there's 40,000 people that think this and you're the one person that thinks the opposite of that, that's not a world that anybody wants to live in. That means you have to think the way that everybody else thinks, and you're only allowed to think that. And sometimes if you do think outside the box, you're going to think something, and this person's going to go, well, what you think is disgusting. I can't believe you think that. It's horrible. There's very few times when, you can't say, okay, you believe that, I believe this. It should be to where at least you can have a debate about it and have a friendly debate instead of just being nasty. Like, that's only in the last 15 years. I don't know where it came from. Like, it's how they have framed it for us and how they have done it. On the other hand, always try to look at the side that you support and say, can you pull anything apart from it? Try to listen to the other side. Is there a point here? There's a lot of 3-letter agencies that are doing a whole lot of boogieing, and I don't know. I really feel like we're getting manipulated hardcore on every level. Doesn't matter what situation, what scenario, what topic, we're getting manipulated. So keeping an open mind is better than nothing. And then DARPA unveils 6 new designs for uncrewed vertical takeoff military aircraft. This thing looks pretty badass. We'll show you that here in a second. But I do want to remind you, there's a crazy, crazy, crazy probability and a possibility disaster that could happen in our near future. Again, the possibility is an adversary could knock out our grid with an EMP. The probability is a Carrington-level event. This device actually protects you against both, so you can be guaranteed whether it is a Carrington-level event from the sun or an EMP attack from our enemy. This will protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, even solar generators in the case of the EMP shields or in the energy, and this can be wired into your home. It grounds the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, device home, and that will keep you running so you can get home to your family to bug in or get out to bug out. It's a very simple device, takes 10 minutes to put in your car. You don't have to be a mechanic. You don't even have to be a whiz. you could literally figure this out in just a few minutes. 3 wires to wire 2 to your battery, 1 to your chassis, and then you're good. You're done. Marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. This is a device that I think that in the end will end up saving lives, and it may be the difference of you being stuck 30 miles away from home or being stuck 40 miles away from your family. Either way, you want to be able to transport yourself, and you want to be able to get home. And even if the grid's down, you have your generator backed up and protected, so it will be able to then power all of your stuff. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. I think the more people that end up getting this, the better off our entire country gets. Again, that is what I truly believe. So thank you guys for going through us. When you go through us, you not only give us a commission, but you are getting a giant $50 off discount per device. marfooglenews.com/EMP. So check this thing out. There's 6 new designs. Dex, which one's your favorite? I'm going to go through some of these. And this is DARPA making this new design for a vertical takeoff craft. And who knows? If it goes to the military, that means at some point it might be regular transportation for civilians.
Well, I think number 4 is kind of classic looking, but I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite. There's little something possibly about number 5. The rest just look like drones to me.
This one, what the heck? How would that take off vertically? That's what I wonder if they launch like that. Does not make any sense. So they're really going all in on drones. Here's the 4. That one's weird. Is that the one you're saying you like, the weird looking? How would that take off vertically? Oh, because the 4 things at the back, it would actually be pointed up like a helicopter.
Correct. Yeah, it reminds me of like, what is it? Those Widowmakers, Ospreys. But instead of the wings tilting, the whole thing tilts.
The whole thing. I'm trying to see how it would obviously be sitting up. Almost think of it like a PlayStation or something, where it can work like this or work like that. It's sitting on its butt there, and then it takes off like a helicopter. But then how does it get going? I guess it starts going up and then curves over. It doesn't even look like the wings move. What a funky design. Imagine this, though. In just a few years, we're going to see all sorts of these in our skies. They weren't supposed to, deploy military stuff in our skies, but watch. They'll come up with reasons why they'll have these. The delivery drones, all that. Once they have delivery drones, they don't need military drones tracking and tracing us and monitoring us. Because once they have civilian drones, delivery drones and things like that, then the government can just hack into those. Whatever designs are being seen here, those are, after they get everything they can for the military out of them, they're going to take those same designs and then say, hey, how can we turn this into money? Dex, go ahead.
No, you're spot on. I don't even think they'll wait. It'll happen at the same time. I mean, think about it. When you built an F-14, there's really no other use for it. So it's like, what other countries could we sell it to whenever they were ready to sell it to countries? It wasn't like you could say, hey, the police departments or security forces or whatever could use F-14s. It just doesn't make sense. But when it comes to these smaller devices like this, they may build them and design them for the military, but I guarantee you they're going to immediately make it available in other use cases for law enforcement or private security or even just delivery of, say, groceries or something like that. It's very much, if you remember when we talked about that underwater drone submersible that was made that could be launched out of a torpedo. But at the same time, they took the exact same shell and said, well, we can make 7 different use cases for it. So here we got lab research, drop it off the research vessel, launch it from a dock. All these educational uses can be used for it. But it was built for the military. But they didn't wait 10 years or 20 years to bring it to the public. It hit the public immediately.
And the fact that the FAA has already cleared this space for all of these drones. This is all coming very, very quickly. One of my friends who used to work in, they inspected the towers. He said that not FAA towers. He did inspections of these huge communications towers, and a lot of them were to relay signals for planes, I believe. But he said that there in the next like 2.5 years, you'll start seeing drone deliveries a whole lot more. Like by 2026, it's going to be huge because they were waiting for certain things. These are all like a lot of these are ready to go, but the FAA had to clear this and get this all worked out. So you're going to have certain airspaces for certain types of drones. And at the same time, they're also cutting out the hobbyists. There's not going to really be many hobbyists around. I think they're really going to screw with the hobbyist drone operators, which really sucks for everybody who is a hobbyist drone operator like myself. It's already getting super hard to even fly, especially if you have a DJI. MasterCard launches its biometric retail payment system in Europe using Poland as a testing ground. Yeah, probably are just high-fiving it in the background. So Australia added their digital ID. Now Poland has they're helping launch this MasterCard biometric retail payment system. The thing is people think, I saw comments that people said, "Oh, this wouldn't fly in America." I'm like, what are you talking about? Everything they put it out in another country. They tested. It's just like doing a focus group. They test it in other countries. They see how it is. If they have a logistical or a logical reason why it would save us money or do this, all they have to do is get something real easy of why they should be using it here instead of the other way. They'll make it a safety issue or they'll make it a fraud issue. They'll make this. It will come here. This is guaranteed to come here. Guarantee it. The biometric stuff, as many of you don't want to do it, they don't care about your beliefs. They don't care about the fact that you don't want to, have your facial recognition in some sort of system. I believe it is going to get a step further than where it will be. This won't be voluntary in the future. And even if they do make it the illusion of voluntary, I think that they'll be taking this information, and if you are using credit or debit or any of this, it will be, why do you think they got us used to this tap to pay? Why do you think they got us used to not having cash? They made it super easy. They don't almost do anything regarding fraud. They don't ever question you anymore with getting using your card digitally. It used to be like if you bought a $400 TV or something, it would be like, call your bank. This could be a fraudulent purchase. Now, it doesn't matter if it's like a weird purchase or this or that. A lot of the times, they just let it go because they're trying to get you used to using all digital, all everything. Zelle, Cash App, this, that. They're taking out ATMs. By the way, this is gonna get you in the near future. You thought it was weird when you noticed all the payphones disappear? Watch. All of the ATMs are disappearing. And I'll go a step further. Watch this. In your town, doesn't matter where you are in the United States, you will start seeing your banks disappear. You're already seeing the hours diminish. You're going to see your banks actually close down, physically close down. Your credit unions, all of the little banks are going to be closing down. Even the big banks' names like Chase and Bank of America, they're closing locations all over the place because you don't need cash. You can do everything online. This stuff scares me. I hate this stuff. I guess I'm living in an unrealistic version of the world. I would rather we go back to the 80s. I don't know. But Dex, go ahead.
Well, you're right in the sense that this will be forced upon us. If you think about it, you didn't have a choice to get a tap-to-pay card. The next card they gave you had a chip in it. Rewind before that, you didn't have a choice to have a card that didn't have a stripe in it. When the IBM Stripe came out, and I don't remember if it was MasterCard or Visa, but one of them, jumped at it. It may have even been Amex, jumped at it and put the Stripe reader in the card and updated the payment systems for that so they could swipe your card instead of putting it on the piece of paper with the carbon. You remember the old carbon? You slide it across and you get 2 receipts. You know, every one of those steps they've done it because it improved fraud, it improved accuracy, it made sure that they didn't have, fraud issues. So yeah, they're just going to say, yeah, this is, having you look at a camera and it look at your eyeballs and know that it's you as your way of making this MasterCard charge, that's going to become the norm. And they're just going to say you have to do it or you don't have a MasterCard anymore. Just like they did with the chips and everything else. So it's coming. You can't get around it, and that's unfortunate. This has actually been in trial for a couple of years in Brazil. They just recently moved it to Poland. They were going to do it in the UK, but they went to Poland instead. But my point or my thought on this is it's once they do it in Poland, hit it in EU, get it in a couple places. It's called PayEye. It will then be starting to roll out everywhere, and it'll probably come to America. JP Chase Morgan and all the other big banks are looking at their versions of these biometric scan systems too, whether it be eyes or fingerprints or whatever. They're all looking at a way to basically get rid of the card because there's one less thing they got to send out, and it makes their life easier because they don't have to deal with fraud as much.
And they don't need your whole face. They just need your eyes. Do you remember during CV when everybody was wearing masks and they were like, oh, how did they used facial recognition during that time period, and they were just as good at finding what these people were. People thought that they were, untraceable, and people were robbing grocery stores and this and that. Even a regular like 7-Eleven camera that didn't have facial recognition, the FBI had stuff that would be able to look at a picture with somebody wearing a mask. They could put it in a special software, and it would say, this is this, and this person now. They have all of that stuff on file. Why? I don't know. Maybe because a bunch of people, and no offense to anybody that did this, Apple and Android and everybody else said, oh, I'll do face unlock. Oh, it's so easy. It sees me and it knows. Why we thought we need, like, what was so hard about fingerprint? I mean, fingerprint was bad enough, but I don't know, what was so easy about that? Or fingerprint, what's so hard about typing in 4 numbers? Or, I get it. People want it more secure because they're doing weird stuff on their phone, I guess. I don't know. I just never saw the whole point of biometrics on cell phones. These same cell phones that Edward Snowden told us that they can access at any time, that they're watching, they're listening to, all this. And then we think it's a coincidence that the cell phones are like, yeah, we're doing this for security. Everything is for your own security. Everything that they have done nefariously has been to protect you. Once you understand that, then you start seeing it. By the way, if you don't have, say if you want to pay in cash, a lot of these places are going to say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't take cash. That's acceptable now after CV. That's the change that happened then. There's whole businesses, the coffee shop, what do you call it? It's a place here. The name doesn't matter. It's a 24-hour Bigfoot Java. They don't take cash at several of their locations, and their reasoning is that they get robbed, or that it's at nighttime and there's only 1 or 2 people working, and that establishment only hires, I think they only hire women, and they run 24/7 in some seedy areas that truckers and all sorts of people go through. So I can kind of understand that, but it's like there's places like that that are able to do it. I thought that was illegal. They will not take it. With this, it's like if you're paying cash, you're still going to be on this camera. Look at where they put it. It's right at eye level. I mean, it's not like they're holding up that stick. That's in the checkout. I mean, we already have this. When you go to the ATM, you see there's a camera pointed at you. If you go to the self-checkout, there's like 5 cameras all around you. I mean, there's actually like 60. As many self-checkouts as there is, there's a camera looking at it. There's a top camera. There's a side camera. There's an under-the-scanner camera. I didn't know that. They literally have a camera down below that glass piece there. They're looking at that too. So they've got every angle of your face, whether you like it or not. You've never had a cell phone. If you went shopping at Walmart a couple times, if you went shopping at Target takes the top and the bottom and the front, and they're scanning your face. Did you know they have a forensics labs in California that rivals the CIA? So whether you think you've got your biometrics and your fingerprint, I've never committed a crime. I don't have my fingerprints anywhere. Yes, you do. If you used an Apple or a freaking Android, you do. Or if you touch something at Target, they probably dusted it after you left. It's crazy. But that's the world nowadays. Our GTM says, rest in peace, Magarip Guyana. Rest in peace, Guyana. N2C's clown and makes up MAGA. I don't get that. I don't know where that's coming from. Viv B, thank you, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and Saudi Arabia is not attending the G7 meeting in Italy. I guess no need to if no petrodollar agreement anymore. Again, Viv B made a great point. Saudi Arabia is not renewing the deal. The petrodollar is not going to be the petrodollar. That's a huge deal. And then we've got Boeing Starliner stuck on space station as more leaks discovered. So Dex and I got tagged in a bunch of stuff earlier, and at first it kind of looked legit. There was audio of this call. It sounded like the commander of the ISS was about to perish. But it turns out it was like a simulation and a drill that they were doing with the commander. It said that he was hyperbolic and that his situation was dire and he's up in space. So they had to like call down. It's super weird. So as it was unfolding, it looked like the commander of the ISS was about to die in space. That he somehow had a decompression thing with his suit. And there's audio of this woman on the ground saying, I'm stuck in traffic. Some surgeon, advanced surgeon, as part of this drill, they call somebody to help. And she's like, well, I can't help you right yet, but I have the number for a hospital that specializes in hyperbaric chamber, decompression in Spain and all of this. And they're going back and forth. The audio got put out without putting the full story up. So a lot of people thought it was real. They were thinking, oh my gosh, the ISS commander is about to perish in space. Do we have the audio from that, by the way? I know, did we put it on the website? I think we put it on the website, didn't we?
No, we didn't. I can find it if you want.
It's okay.
Basically, you only heard one half of the conversation. You only heard the on-call surgeon who was saying, hey, I can do all my job. I can do it from the phone, and I'll talk to you and give you what you need. But if you listen closely, and I went back again, Adam, in the very beginning of it, she's talking about a procedure from a splashdown, hence the hyperbolic. So that kind of gives a little bit more credence because she says following the drill, or not following the drill, she's following the procedural code, blah, 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 for hyperbolic post-splashdown, meaning after they splash down in the water, maybe they go too deep or something, and then they come up and they get the bends. How do they deal with that? So that kind of then adds a little credence to the fact that it was just a drill and not the real thing, because we kept, as you and I were going back and forth, like, why would he have a hyperbolic issue in space? Like, did he have a leak in his suit? Was he, chilling out with low pressure for fun or high pressure for fun somewhere? So, yeah.
I think it's hyperbaric, because
I'm sorry,
hyperbolic is like a curve. And like
Yeah. Hyperbaric. You're correct. But you get it. The whole point of, like, you're deep down in the ocean, you come up too fast, you get the bends, and they put you in the machine. So they were trying to put him the whole drill was to put him in a suit and pressurize him. To save him. So.
Because it would have been pretty bad. It would have looked really funky if this thing gets delayed 6 times. They ship Boeing to the ISS. They're on there right now. And then all of a sudden the ISS commander has a decompression problem with the suit. We at the time were thinking, man, is there like some sabotage going on or something? Because remember the hole in the side of the ISS and all of this? Again, all of this, either way, we were all questioning it too, because it's also NASA, and it's like they're full of crap all the time. So it's just funny that got put out, and it got carefully kind of recorded and put out. So it looked like somebody was about to perish in space.
They also, and just to clarify, people that are wondering what we're talking about, her audio, the surgeon's audio, was placed on one of the channels of one of the streams. So all you could hear was just her. You couldn't hear the whole conversation. And when they came out, they said, yeah, we're sorry, we screwed up. We shouldn't have placed her audio on that channel. That was the mess up. But what you were hearing was a drill. We were just doing a drill. It's practice. We do this stuff all the time. We were running through a scenario, and her audio happened to be piped to the wrong channel, and that's why y'all heard that. And, oh, don't worry, everybody in the ISS was sleeping at the time, and they're going to be doing a spacewalk tomorrow, and everything's fine.
So
Don't worry.
And that's the other thing. It's like, well, or are they covering something up? Like at the time, this is in the time period. It's like, whoa, something big is going on on the ISS. Could it be that because everybody's been talking about how Russia has these satellite killers, and we've seen in the movie Gravity, they show this scenario where things start dominoing and start spiraling around the Earth. They could be covering something like that up. There was a million things going through our mind, and we're trying to verify everything. So anyways, it ended up being a simulation. But now they actually do have this freaking leak thing. And so say if you don't believe any of this is legit, I have a question for you too. Why are they throwing Boeing under the bus like this? Like, no matter what's going on, it's definitely very shady, like how Boeing has been around for decades. Now, all of a sudden, they're the crappiest company in the world. Like, it doesn't make sense. Something is going on. Some power move is happening. Boeing is one of 5 military contracted companies, along with making all the planes. It is one of the 5 big behemoths in the military industrial complex. So I think it's really, really weird that all of this is happening. And I'm sure it's going to hurt Boeing stocks and all of that. And it's like, is this purposely being done so Boeing crashes and then rich people can buy a bunch of stocks, and then the U.S. goes, hey, we're going to give you a $10 trillion contract. And then the stocks go up, they sell their stocks, and then the dollar collapses. Who knows? But another leak with the Boeing situation, and they say that the Boeing Starliner is stuck on the space station as more leaks are discovered. This whole thing is just... They delayed the Starliner shuttle, which is on top of an Atlas V, and after 5 delays, because whistleblowers were saying that thing's going to blow up, it's got a helium leak. After 5 delays, they finally get it up there. Now it's stuck. Dex, go ahead.
What do you want to bet the spacewalk they announced or they talked about for tomorrow? They're going to go out there with a bunch of tools to try to fix the leaks on the side of the thrusters. I mean, like, it's not comical, but it is. Like, what's going on? Like, everything is just falling apart on this thing, and it's just getting worse. They don't know when they can leave. NASA gave them 4 more days. Said, hey, you can extend your mission 4 more days. But didn't really say if it's because of the leaks. But they're saying they've got more leaks, and they don't know how they're going to be able to leave.
Oh, no.
And these
they're going to have to call SpaceX.
Thrusters.
They're going to have to call Elon. And Elon, with the competitor, is going to have to go up there and pick their asses up.
Yeah, he's going to show up in, the Dragon capsule and say, come aboard.
Like, do you think that they're going with this whole Boeing Starliner because it's years delayed? It's all of this. And do you think they're just doing this so they don't have to be beholden to Elon? I don't know. They're going to call Elon. I'm telling you, watch this. They're going to call Elon. Like, well, they're going to, like, do that thing where they, like, scratch their foot on the floor with their hands behind their back and be like, yeah, we're kind of stuck. Yeah, we told us. Yeah. The helium leak. Yeah, it's the helium leak still. Yeah. Can you help us out just maybe this one last time? Maybe pick us up? I can totally see that happening. We have to take that clip in a week from now when Elon SpaceX is picking their butts up off of the ISS. And that's going to be a highlight clip. And then Mexico is building the wall? Now, this is totally speculation as far as if this is just like trolling. I want to point out. So this guy looks like he could be totally being sarcastic. It does look like they're building. And some folks did comment. Some folks weighed in. They said, yes, they are building a wall. I guess finally Mexico is saying, hey, we'll pay for it. In some chunks. It's not like it's not doing what T-Man was going to do. But I guess listen for yourself here. Let me do this here.
Mexican construction workers saying that Mexico is building the wall in order to keep America.
Why do they have to put... they just always have to put music. I don't get that. So let's see if we can go to this little. He says
In jail, you can quit building the.
they had to put that music there. I didn't notice that. Okay, so never mind. You guys can watch it on the website. It says he goes, "Hey, you can quit." He goes, T-Man's in jail. You can quit building the wall now. And this guy walks up and he says, No. He goes, you know why? Whoever is here is to go back. They don't want whoever's there to come back. And they think, and then check this out, to Mexico. And he says, for a collapse. He goes, that they're preparing for a collapse. So they think a lot are going to start coming back. Now Mexico hold everybody back. So yeah. Isn't that a trip? And the guy says it like nonchalantly, and he totally could be trolling. But this is what people are talking about. They're building the wall. And then Mexico had all these weird events. All these people, mayors and candidates got taken out. And then Steinbaum won. We covered this the other day. Check this out. Is this not a weird freaking prediction? And I'm telling you, this was it. Did you guys watch the show yesterday or the day before? The Economist cover. This was such a trip to me. So I know that a lot of you saw this already. But I'm going to show the people that missed the other day. What's her name? Claudia Steinbaum? Is that it, Dex? Steinbaum?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Was she born in Mexico? That doesn't seem like a very, I don't know. Steinbaum.
She is Jewish.
Really? This whole thing is garbage because it's on the Oogle DuckDuck. And yes, you guys probably know this after years. I use the Oogle to search DuckDuckGo on purpose so they know I'm. Anyways. Oh, and then I use DuckDuck to search DuckDuck. Okay. Economist cover 2024. You guys that saw this already, you're bored, but watch. This is just such a trip. Okay, so here's the cover. Dex, I don't know who pointed this out to you, but Dex pointed it out to me. And we actually did a whole show. And I went back to that show and I could not figure this out. Mind you, there was that cargo container ship crash, right? There's this weird thing over here, which you think is just like, at first people thought, oh, it's just colors. It's just like part of a design. But you can actually see the lines. These are containers, and that's a cargo ship. We actually showed you exactly the red, white, blue, the gray, all of that. That's just like containers, literally. They had that crash. What's even crazier is this is showing a crash, and then it goes into a cargo, ship, right? The crash into the bridge. Which you could say that this is kind of the bridge between these two halves. All right, and then you've got the bombs. Yesterday we just covered this. What was the nuke thing? They were talking about not today's nukes, but yesterday's.
Russia was saying they could place nukes in Mexico.
Nukes in Mexico. This is literally a comment by Russia yesterday. Look at this frickin' picture of the silhouette. Nobody knew what it was back then. But I'm going to show you. This picture is absolutely crazy. There's all the Oogle pictures of somebody, right? Let's go Claudia. Let's see here. Claudia Steinbaum. And this is before she got put in. And she's now the prez, right? This is her, right? Okay, let's go to images. It is specifically a very popular pic. Oh, that would be weird if it's like gone now. That would be really freaky if it was. There it is. There's the pic. Look at her collar here. Okay. I think yesterday. Let's see. I should have put it side by side. gosh, it won't go any bigger. So look at this, look at the tightly pulled back hair. And everybody else on here is somebody. It shows, obviously, you know who that is, right? T-Man. On the other side, time's running out. Putin and Zelensky. What's weird is this faces them off. Like, they're at war with each other. Is T-Man going to be at war with Scheinbaum? Like, are we going to go to war with Mexico? Or is Russia going to be in Mexico? Are we going to have them on our southern border? Like, that's just crazy. Look at the picture of this, and then look at this picture. Look at the collar. Look at the nose, the everything, the tightly pulled back hair, even the angle of the hair. That's her. How did they predict? Do you know how many candidates were in the Mexican the voting day? There were tons, and a lot of people did not see her as the winner. Of course, there were some that said, "Oh, well, we think that she's going to win." I mean, does this not, like, it makes you wonder if it's all just one big thing. This whole theme of this thing, I wonder, nobody's really said about, it almost looks like an eye test or a vision test. It almost makes me think like it's a message like, do you see it? Like it's right in front of you, but you're not going to see it until after it happens. It's like it's super obvious. It's like right in your face messaging. I think it's nuts. Everything about these every year, these Economist covers, it's like they work this out at the WEF or something. It's so creepy how accurate every year is. It's kind of like the subjects at the WEF or the annual the builder group. You know, it's like every year they talk about these subjects, and then something big happens in those areas. Very creepy. But mainly, many of us, again, think that's why we should frickin' prepare. Go over and check out My Patriot Supply. Not only does it help our independent channel, but you can get yourself a really good deal on prep food. This is freeze-dried food that will last 25 years. Again, it's one of the most affordable ways to do it. Everybody is stretched thin right now. That's why it's really great to have this, because not only if you want to go bulk, you can do that. You do get a better price bulk, but you can start small. You can get a 3-day kit, or you can get a week kit or a month kit, whatever you can end up doing, and you can build it up over time. Even if it takes you 5 years to get to where you want to be, you'll still have 20 years left on the shelf with your oldest food that you bought now, and the newest food will have 24 years left on the shelf. That's what's great about freeze-dried food, especially these guys are one of the most affordable companies out there, and you know what you're going to get. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/prep. Thank you, and thank you. Let's see here. We've got a couple of people that just joined. Thank you so much over on D-Live. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Thank you, Marshmallow, a trusted source. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see here. BNB, thank you. Josh P, thank you. Yesterday. Viv B, Tammy, thank you. And I believe Viv P and Jillian, thank you so much for your support. And Viv B, and let's see. Yeah, I think Viv B, you are our top supporter tonight. Thank you so much. And over on D-Live, thank you that everybody that popped in. Thank you, Poca Loco. The end is near. Shugs, and Kimbria, and of course Zippy Moons. So out of the loop. Who all bounced? Sad either way. Zippy Moons, thank you. I appreciate that. Vicky K, the Approaching Storms, and everybody else that made it to tonight's show. Dex, thank you so much for everything you do.
Much love. Great job, brother.
If you guys want to stick around again, make sure to go check out our other channels at marfooglenews.com/friends. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.